All right, welcome everyone. Pastor Josh here today for Community Connection, joined by Katrina. We're glad you're here to talk with our viewers. Last Sunday we mentioned in our service the Sanctity of Human Life week and how important that is to many of us. Many of our people in our congregation have been involved in various ways of human life, supporting that through different ways. And so wanted to do a special interview this week with someone you may probably haven't met, talk about a ministry that's in our own backyard, almost literally, about how they're trying to help young women choose life. And there's a lot of different ways. I was kind of thinking about this, how people engage the abortion and life issue.
Right.
There's certainly political action, and through your votes, we try to influence that. Some may be on the more opposition with protesting and trying to really force the issue that way. But then there's a ministry like Graceson that tries a more compassionate approach to help girls in unplanned pregnancies to choose life. And so excited to hear about that today. So first, why don't you introduce yourself to our viewers? Tell them a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. So my name is Katrina Solum. Like you said, I'm the executive director of Graceson Housing Foundation. I've been there about a year and a half. I have a bachelor's in social work. So the idea of engaging people kind of where they're at and the muck and the mire and where they find themselves in lives and the decisions that they've made comes very naturally to me. So Graceson stepping into that role was really a gift. I had been working out of town a lot, and a friend had told me that this position had come available. And through prayer and just moving forward, like God really opened those doors to be able to sit in this place and engage young moms with their kiddos, and even before they have their kiddos, to walk with them through what it looks like to parent and to keep that kiddo and what your role changes from and to. You go from being a teenager that has usually a very complex story to having a kiddo and wanting to protect them and shield them from that complex story and from reliving it, but without all of the resources. So Graceson is able to step in alongside them and kind of show them how to hopefully successfully move out of those patterns and engage in new patterns that'll be healthier and more supportive.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, my wife and I have been involved in different ways, but I suspect most of our viewers have probably never even heard of Graceson. It's only a couple miles away from here. It's literally in our backyard. So just give us the overview of kind of how the ministry operates and what it tries to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So Graceson was founded in 2012. We'll start there. And it was founded because the founder at the time and a few of the people around her realized that there are not any resources really for teen moms in this area. There's Graceson Housing Foundation, there's My Choice, and there's Alexandria's House, and those are the three housing options for teens, and they all kind of target different age groups. So something that makes Graceson unique is that we will work with girls as young as 13 years old, which is heartbreaking that you would even have to consider working with a girl who's 13 years old. But when it was founded, the idea was that Graceson is going to be a home. It's not a shelter. It's not a halfway house. It's a home. So we have residents who will come in. We have 3 bedrooms. We have 2 full-time house parents that live in-house all the time. And then we just try to engage them like you would engage a family. So we'll have family meals together, and we'll have program nights where we'll talk about things like parenting and healthy relationships, how to cook, because a lot of our girls will come in and they just like processed foods, and I don't understand it personally, but that is what they know.
Life.
Absolutely. So Graceson comes in and tries to engage in a new way and reframe what home looks like, and then also teach them what God's love looks like. So when our girls come to us, they don't have to be Christian. They don't have to buy into the Christian values that we try to live our personal lives by, but then also run Graceson. But in those moments of having these girls in our house, and we can extend to them love that they are not familiar with, like that is beautiful. We had a girl actually that came in last year, and she came in from Idaho. And one thing that she told us when she came in, she's not a believer. She has very I don't know how to describe it really. She just has no affiliation with God, no feelings towards him, nothing like that. But when she was coming to us, she had been engaging with another nonprofit. And in this nonprofit, they were bold and they asked to pray for her in that moment before she came to us. And it was something that she spoke about over and over and over. So knowing that connection has such a huge impact is massive. And that is when things are challenging, that's what we cling to. We know these moments are important, and extending God's love in a new way is really important. So that's kind of where we've come from, and what we're trying to do.
Yeah. Well, help us understand a teen girl. Who experiences an unplanned pregnancy. What do they need? Physically, emotionally, spiritually. What are their real needs in that situation?
So a lot of our girls come from really complex family backgrounds. We have one resident that had come to us before. One parent lived in one state, another parent lived in another state. Both parents had legal backgrounds, which made custody really challenging. And then when she came to us, we were trying to figure out what that actually looked like. But in getting to know her and her story, there was a lot of exposure to drugs and violence. There was a lot of mental health. And that's something that we see over and over and over again. Even if it's not with the residents directly, frequently they have stories of, my mom or my dad has mental health issues and we don't get along. We're yelling at each other all the time. It's a really unhealthy environment. It's not uncommon for us to see girls that come from backgrounds where drug use is really common. So they come in and they're very strong. They're incredibly resilient young women. But behind that resilience, there's a lot of brokenness and a lot of sadness and a lot of lack of skills to know how to process through that, which is more than fair. If someone comes from a very healthy background, there's still a lack of skills to process through some of these things. So we see these girls come in with a lot of brokenness and not knowing how to maneuver it. As far as some of the physical needs, a lot of them haven't been to a doctor with any frequency. So it's kind of a blessing in disguise that they've come to this place where now they have to engage a doctor for the health of their baby. And a lot of these girls get really attached. Once they have decided that they're going to keep that kiddo, they become very attached and they want to make sure they're doing the best that they can for him or her, and make sure that if they need to go to the doctor, that's what they're going to do. If they need to go to the dentist, that's what they're going to do. They often come in without any financial support. So in the program, one of the things that we try really hard to make sure these girls are equipped with is to be successful when they move out. And frequently that looks like finishing high school. It's one of the requirements of the program. If you're not actively in school because you've graduated or you've gotten your GED, then you need to be looking for work so that you can provide. And then many of our girls do get state assistance because being a single parent is still very, very expensive. Diapers are ridiculously expensive. They're crazy. So we try to come alongside these girls and make sure that they have even those resources, the diapers, the formula. To the best of our ability, we try to encourage them to provide those things for themselves. But if there's a gap, then Grayson's going to step in and we're going to make sure that these babies are taken care of, and then teaching them and training them what healthy relationships look like.
That's great.
Because that is something that is almost always broken. You have a parent-child relationship where you just argue and you fight, or maybe it's even more codependent. Like, this person has become my best friend and I lean on them more than what is healthy for the stage of life that they're in. And so we want to try to retrain and mitigate some of those complications with little kiddos, because your parent, not yet best friend, you might develop that relationship, but you first have to learn what healthy boundaries look like for you and for that kiddo and for your relationship together.
Well, I was hoping maybe you could tell us a story about one of the girls that came through the program, maybe without sharing her identity, but just to help us feel, what it's like to find yourself in that situation. I know the girls that come through Grayson don't usually come from supportive families that are going to help them walk through it. These are girls that really don't have anyone to help them. So Maybe tell us a story about someone and how Grayson was able to be a part of their story.
Yeah. So we have one resident, and I still keep in touch with her. She is delightful. We had one resident that came in. She had a really complicated story in that she was adopted into the family that she was in. And when she came to us, her parents were a little bit stressed out, not fully understanding how to manage the situation and how to come alongside of her in a way that would equip her and help her move forward in a really healthy way.
Yeah.
So she came to us by way of her parents, and she lived with us for about a year. And we had some concerns just moving through things. Obviously, we always try to work on mental health and physical health and making sure everyone is well taken care of. But when we came up close to her deadline of when she was going to be transitioning out, because we are a program that's 13 to 18 years of age, we were finding that we weren't sure where she was going to go. She wasn't finding housing. We were finding a really challenging path before us to try to find housing for her. And so we got a little bit concerned, but she had grown into this really incredible mothering figure. Like, she was taking really good care of her kiddo. She loved and adored this kiddo. She's really motivated with what she wants her future to look like, but this housing piece is huge. Yeah. We know that kiddos, no matter what age, when they experience homelessness, it puts up so many roadblocks for them to be successful in the long term. Yeah. So the last thing that we wanted was to put her out on the street, and going back to live with family was not an option. We finally found housing for her. She's been out of the program for almost a year now, and she's doing great. She's volunteering with a local organization. She's in a relatively healthy and stable relationship with a young man that she met last year. Her kiddo is growing so fast. Like, this kid has turned into a little chunk, and he is a happy, happy kiddo. And so it's been really amazing to see just with that stability and what that kindness and grace can do for someone, to get them to a place where they understand that they're capable and that the future is daunting and it's hard and it's not going to get any easier, but you can do it. And knowing that they have a community to come back to. Every Tuesday night, we have a family night. So any other girls who have moved out of the program, maybe they chose to leave or they were asked to leave, they're always welcome back. Oh, nice. Every Tuesday night. So she usually comes back on Tuesday nights. We'll eat dinner together, we'll play games, and she's doing so well. So it really is an affirmation of, one, what God has called us to, because there's no doubt in my mind that Grayson is here because God asked us to be here, and we're sustained because he's not done with us here. But also knowing that, like, this family environment means something, and empowering you means something, because you can be successful and you can change what your story looks like and what the story would look like for your little kiddo. Well,
yeah, and the story for a lot of those would have been choosing abortion.
Absolutely,
that would have been the default story. So that's amazing. I know you had a couple of statistics, some information to maybe share with us connected to it. What else did you want to tell us?
So one thing that I wanted to know, because something that I really enjoy, I know that Grayson is like a gift from God. It's planted here. It is here for this season, for as long as he wants us here. But it's also really important to me to know that there's a need statistically. So I would love to share with you that in 2017, in Spokane County alone, there were 387 pregnancies from girls ages 10 to 19. Which is an extraordinary amount of pregnancies. Of those 387 pregnancies, there were 123 that were terminated. There were 263 that were live births, and then there was one that was not a live birth. And so that just tells us, like, the data is a little bit old. Need to get some newer data because we're now in 2021. We're looking at 4-year-old data. But it tells us that there's a need here. And when we look at that need of over 200 pregnancies that are kept, plus the 123 that are terminated, and we have 3 housing options in Spokane, it's insane. It is insane the amount of need based on what we have to offer in this community. And so being a place that has open arms and open doors that we can say, hey, If you need us, we're absolutely going to evaluate if it's a good fit. Grayson does have rules. We have expectations. There are certain things that you are required to do while you live in the house. But if it's a good fit, and if you're willing to put in the effort, we are going to match that effort step for step. And we're going to make sure that we'll do everything we can to make sure you're successful. And God's going to be in it every step of the way. And you don't have to acknowledge that. And you don't have to see that, but that's okay. Something else that I really find interesting is there are 5 pillars that have been said to be what is needed for success, especially for teen moms. And so of those 5 pillars, it's self-sufficiency, housing stability, financial stability, successful and engaged parenting and attachment, and healthy relationships. Every single one of those points are points that Grayson intentionally touches on. And so to have that affirmation of like, these things are important, and to make sure that you are as successful as we can help you become, we're going to make sure that we touch on these points every single day. And we're going to affirm them in you, and then we're going to move through them with you. So that's always so exciting to know that what God has called us to is supported by data that is put out by secular groups. Like, this goes hand in hand, and the mission that we're on is so much bigger than what we actually see.
Oh, that's great to hear. So what do you see in the future for Grayson? Is there any new ideas or things you guys might be working on?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing that we're working on that I'm so excited for this, is called the Wholeness Project. So we are working with 2 other nonprofits. There's a third one that I believe we'll be working with in the future, to provide in-house counseling. So because something that we see is so much trauma in the background and so many broken relationships, it's very, very difficult to maneuver some of those things without someone who has training to say, how do we work through this? How do we talk about it and try to heal some of that hurt? So to be able to provide in-house counseling where it's very low barrier, it will be at no cost to the girls. They will have easy access at least 1 day a week. And then they can build that healthy, stable relationship with someone who knows about trauma and about some of those experiences these girls have. So that's something that's coming up that I'm so excited for. We actually are going to start construction so that we can have our counseling room in the next couple of weeks. So hopefully we'll be moving forward with that project very quickly.
That'd be very exciting to see that come to fruition. Well, I'm sure some of our viewers may be curious to learn some more. So for those that may want more information or connect with you, tell us about websites, newsletters, or however they could find out more about the ministry.
Of course. So, of course, because social media is everywhere, we are absolutely on social media. It's Graceson Housing Foundation at both Instagram and Facebook.
Okay.
So you can find us there. Or you can go to graysonhousingfoundation.org, and that is our entire website. If you want to receive our newsletter, you can sign up for it on the website, and you will get that monthly, and then you'll get blasts when we have special news or events that are coming up.
Cool. So that's how you can find out more information about the ministry. You know, we really appreciate how much effort you put in. Sometimes you may not see, the fruit of the ministry, but in those times you do get to see it, and you see how God is working. It's such a blessing. So we'll continue to bless you guys in your ministry over there. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Continue to be praying for all the ministries that support life, Graceson Housing Foundation, among others, in our community as we seek to see the gospel go forward.